week's episode of Not Your Mama's Podcast. And today I'm excited. I have the pleasure of speaking with Anna Rahe, a somatic fascia specialist and the founder of GST Body, with over a decade of experience helping more than 10,000 people, including celebrities like Robert Downey Jr. and Emmy Rossum. Anna is here to share her expertise on healing the body and finding a state of calm through fascia. So, Anna, did I say that correctly?
That's good. We'll keep practicing. Fascia. Yep.
Fascia. Okay,
Fascia.
I have heard about this term, but can you explain to the audience what exactly fascia is and why it is so vital for our bodies to have this physical wellness, especially for us as busy moms?
Totally. Fascia is a very important body tissue that is everywhere inside your body. There is not a place it does not exist. And it is a specialized tissue that has a lot of functions just as a tissue, but its most significant role is as your body's connective tissue system, an entire body system, just like your digestive system and your endocrine system and your lymphatic system. The connective tissue system comes complete with its own organs, the way that fascia organizes around all other body systems. And because it connects everything, it's touching everything, it's involved in every physiological function, it becomes utmost important to our health and vitality. As moms, it's really important because we are under a lot of loaded stress. And I like to talk about fascia in terms of loaded stress because there's two really primary influences of fascia. One is what we call mechanical loading. That's picking up your 3 children in one arm, trying to carry your groceries up the stairs. That's mechanical. It's from the outside in. And then there's psychological loading, which is our emotional stresses, the hormones and the neurotransmitters that are producing our experience, our cocktail of experience. And fascia sits in the grid, this wire kind of like mesh grid that is interfacing with both our mechanical loads, like our workouts and all of those, and then our internal chemical loads. And it's busy modulating our energy sources. Its greatest facility, it's a hydrating system, it's a movement system, it's a sonic system. It is a communication system. It's how we communicate in the body between different body organs and other tissues. And so, but its greatest capacity is your body's smart grid. And if you know anything about the global smart grid of energy regulation, this is what fascia is doing on your physiological level. It's the reason that your heart putting off the EK, electrocardiogram output is sitting next to your lungs and there isn't any interference. It's the reason that your esophagus is able to synchronize with the movement of your colon to help move food along and extract the nutrients and get rid of the waste and have a healthy gut and microbiome. So it works on all of these different levels. And until recently, it really hasn't been given the attention that it deserves in terms of how it integrates in our lives. And what's other interesting thing about fascia is that it's super sensitive to hormones, which is why more women are affected by fascial dysfunctions than men as a general statistic. So when we start looking at how can we care for ourselves as mothers, we now have a master system, body system that allows us to interface both from our psyche and our physicality and being able to restore us to, kind of peak our vitality to do what we do.
Yeah. I love like every time I get on the podcast, I get new information. And I think that this is the fascia is something that wasn't really talked about in previous forms of like natural healing modalities. So I love that this topic is here. So what are some simple daily exercises that our audience can do, to tap into their fascia, and have that incredible feeling and really connect with it?
Great question. So number one, fascia really reorganizes our sense of what it means to use movement and exercise and our kind of turns the world of health and wellness upside down and on its head. Couple interesting facts that will influence what people need to be able to do is that your body, we know, is, between 70 and 50% water. And of that, fascia also shares the same percentage, 70% water, 30% fiber, which means that your body needs movement to keep from being septic. Okay. And if we think about how static water grows and breeds, disease and bacteria and viruses, the body does the same thing. And we have this really weird way that we relate to movement, that we think movement has to be done as a hard workout to burn fat, to tone and isolate, to get sculpted bodies. And we just have to get it in and burn it out. And it's really aggressive. And basically, that's kind of like going out to the Mojave Dog. It's like, let me say it this way. Fascia is the skin underneath your skin. And so it's akin to the way we treat our workouts and our movement practices is like going out to the Mojave Desert after a winter inside without sunscreen, putting on baby oil, and then just basking in the sun. We sit all day, we kind of do nothing, and then we go to the gym and we scorch our tissues with high adrenaline workouts, cortisol, and we try to get it all in. And fascia's like, oh my gosh, this is so violent. This is so not great for me. And it says, what I really want to do is I'm like a snow globe. I need to be shaken almost once an hour to keep my flurry up, to keep the lightness in my tissues, to keep the water hydrating through my fibers, to keep stretch happening, to push energy because it pulls and presses. So when we start looking at the body in a fascial perspective, you are more tubes than you are sticks. We always think of like working out, like I'm going to take this muscle, I'm going to shorten it and get some strength. But fascia says I'm actually a tube. And so you want to think about that Chinese finger toy. That when you're a kid, it's like a fiber and you put your fingers in the end and you push it and the fibers loosen and you pull it and it tractions those and gets stronger and you can't pull your fingers out. This basic element is exactly what fascia is like. Fascia lays out in microtubes all the way to big tubes around your muscles, and it pushes and pulls energy like a syringe with hydraulics. If you think about this push and pull, it's the action that moves water through the fibers and starts to hydrate the tissue to optimize it. In order for fascia to optimize its function for you, it has to be hydrated. It can't be sticky, like when your hair gets gel in it, fibers that get stuck can't pull and stretch. Second thing that needs to do is be individuated. It doesn't want to be all meshed together. Yet when we sit, your fascia turns like honey and can get crystallized on it. And so what we need to do is take this kind of action of pushing and pulling and start the fluid movement of the fibers to keep health and vitality, which makes everything else that sits inside the fascia healthy and optimized. So for the listener, there's three actions that you want to put more into your daily life that fascia says microdose throughout your day. Don't go out and eat one large meal of a workout once a day. We wouldn't do it with our nutrition. We shouldn't do it with our movement. It says go out and every hour on the hour, do these little micro movements to keep your fascia fluffed. Then if you want to do more intense workouts, you need to learn how to move according to these three principles. Like a syringe, we have compression. This is the body shortening. Think about like an accordion. It shortens and it gets wider and it creates more space. Then you traction, which decompresses. That's like a pulling action. And then you rotate. For the listener, this is very akin to taking the fibers of a nice hand-woven sweater, dunking it in hand washing it in a vat of water. The dunking is compression. Loosens the fibers and water goes through it. You pull up the sweater and it tractions all of the dirt out of the fibers, and then you wring it out and it it detoxifies the fibers. So what this looks like in your daily life is that you're going to, the first thing in the morning, walk up to a sink, put your toes against the baseboard, grab onto the sink and pull back your butt like you're going to go water skiing. Let your head drop forward and try to pull your body as long as possible. Drop your butt to the floor. Get into a primal squat, one of the most beneficial moves that you need to have for digestive health. I'm just throwing that in for you.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, this is gonna help me.
Yeah. I was like, this is what you want to do for
I
your
know. This is what I want to
digestion
do to
and getting your mic.
heal.
That's right. So you compress and you go into a primal squat. Then you pull back and then you're going to come forward and do a cobra on the sink where you lift your chest and you arch your back. Do that 5 times. Pull back and sit in traction. Drop your butt to the floor and get compression. Pull back into traction, then come forward and arch. Step away from your sink, and before you reach for your coffee mug to pour your coffee, take your arms out to your sides and rotate your spine, looking right and left. This is how your organs actually exfoliate themselves inside the tissues to keep them healthy and get the dead cells off and bring new healthy cells on. If you can learn those 3 actions, then all of a sudden you look around your world and you say, because as moms, we're busy. There is zero time for us, zero time. And
Mhm.
so what we want to do is layer this in, and you look around and you're like, life is a jungle gym. Where can I do these 3 moves? Where can I hang off of parking meters, chain link fences while I'm waiting for my boys to get out of baseball practice, when I'm walking my dog in the morning before I have to run out of the door to sell a house, or right? We get to go in and look at the world and say, there are surfaces that become my jungle gym. And my body gets to be the recipient of this really joyful, effervescent play that
Mhm.
is now microdose, so we don't have to try to set aside time for ourselves, because we all know that doesn't happen,
Yeah.
right? 3 kids.
Yes.
And I'm like, when does this fit in? And unless I just do it on the fly, like, fixing my body on the fly, it doesn't happen. And so that's really the key, is that I would say to moms out there, it's not about making time, it's about making space.
Yeah.
Space for yourself is anywhere you are. And space is created by mindfulness, and it's created by presence, and it's created by feeling. And all of those 3 things are brilliantly related to fascia. Fascia is a sensory organ that is collecting your experiences of stress, of elation, and actually it's connected to your endocrine system. I don't know how much you know about this, but you have 2 primary chemical systems. One is endorphin based,
Hmm.
and one is adrenal based. And everybody talks about the adrenal base, right? Which is all the chemicals of stress. But the endorphin base is all the like chemicals of ease and elation and de-stress. One is the antidote for the other.
Hmm.
And so fascia is wired deeply into the endorphin system, while muscles are tied into the adrenal system. So if
Hmm.
you want to lighten your burdens and feel more open and spacious, you literally have to drop into the sensory organ and feel your tensions, do these 3 compression, traction, rotation, and start to feel how your body literally is receiving endorphin feed rather than adrenal feed. And
Hmm.
when you start doing that, you can live much more present with your kids. You can be much more present with the people that you love, and you can be more like embodied to yourself, which is where we kind of need to center, right?
Yeah. And
Being centered is
yeah,
fun.
and we've lost a lot of that centeredness, I think, even just with our culture of how we are. And we just, a lot of people really don't listen to their intuitions. They don't trust
Right.
themselves anymore. They're lost in distractions with social media and their phone. And, even when we're going out on walks, we're not just being present. We have something in our ear,
Yeah.
and there's a difference. Like, when I do a walk with nothing, no electronics, I see more. I see more of the
Yeah.
streets. I see more of the character of the neighborhood, and my mind is thinking more. But then, when you have the electronics like in your ear, it is a little bit more cloudy. Yeah, I can still see my atmosphere, but I'm like not,
Not touching it. You're not,
yeah,
yes.
not like
It's
fully
masked.
immersed.
We are. We're just numb. We live in a culture that is taught to not feel pain, to not feel things because it's scary. And then
Mhm.
we're like, let's mask it. This anxiety feeling, I got to get rid of this. And the only way to do it is to stuff it down rather than to exfoliate it
Or
out.
just take a
Right?
pill, you know what I mean?
Yep, that's right.
Take a
That's
pill to
right.
knock the
Medicating.
edge off. But and it's sometimes like in our culture, it's almost like because we're so Western medicine driven, and they like kind of like poo-poo some of like, let's say, the
Yep.
cure techniques, which
Integrative.
those
That's right.
little things do amazing wonders. And I love the creativity, how you can really implement it throughout your day. And it's, and one of those things that for change is like you need to have intention. You know what I mean? And you want to keep reminding yourself what your goal is and why you are doing it, the intentions of why you are, taking time to do those 3 basic moves. Um, and I want to kind of dive into like, how does this work kind of help with, like pains in your body or
Mhm.
disease within your body? How can that really help level your journey to healing?
That's such a great question. So I think the first thing people need to at least entertain is that if you have health complications and if you have body pain, you're almost guaranteed that your fascia is involved because it's everywhere, touching everything. And what really is hopeful about that is that it gives a completely new option for people who have been like, I've been chasing this one symptom. And that kind of comes back to my story, which is a little bit longer than we probably have time for. But what led me into this anyway is just like failure of diagnosis from the Western side, unable to know what was happening from the integrative side, and this kind of like just lost in between experience of my own health when I was 18. And
Mm-hmm.
this got really serious because I was like, I'm too young to have these problems. And so I think that for the, like, I had tried everything. And so to stumble upon a new, completely different option and way of looking at my own health issues is really hopeful for people who live with these kind of chronic problems and trying to figure it out. Fascia is there on every level, listening and modulating what's happening. I say that again because it's really important to understand that when you have experiences, whatever it is, whether you're having it as a stressful emotional experience or a physical experience, they collide in fascia. And fascia has all these sensors in it that sit there and listen to the toxicity levels. You have light receptors, and you have sound receptors, and you have mechanoreceptors, and you have what these are called nociceptors. And nociceptors are constantly listening for toxic stimulation in your system. And when you have overstimulation that can be toxic, whether that's chemical levels of toxicity or load in the tissue toxicity, you can take normal receptors and they become nociceptors. Why this is important is because they are really linked to, they start giving the signal to the body, I'm in pain, I have disease, I have sickness here, and it's starting to talk to you. And we usually overlook our own sense of intuition, if that's, part of the what you want to call proprioceptive and internal interoceptive existence, is listening inside and knowing what's going on with your body. And so I tell people often, because I specialize in physical pain. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, so I deal mostly with physical pain and emotional pain through the body. That's where somatics comes in. But I tell people pain is not a good or a bad thing. It is just information. And
Mm-hmm.
what your body is literally trying to do, what your fascia is trying to tell you is something's wrong. I'm trying to give you a feeling and a sensation as an alarm. And it can start off as like, oh, this is just a little thing. Or it could be like, this is a big deal. You've been ignoring me for this long. And so when people go back into their bodies, it's important that they start being like, when did this start? What's the feeling? When did I first start? And getting to know your body's primary language, which is pain or lack of pain. Sensation is your body's
Mm-hmm.
primary means of communication. So fascia becomes the organ of body consciousness, the way
Yeah.
that your brain is the organ of mind consciousness. And
Mm-hmm.
so we need to spend a little bit more time. We always, in our culture, we are like mind over matter, right? In our workouts, mind over matter. Just shut down your bodies crying and put your mind, and you're like, maybe that's a little wrong. Maybe I should actually really listen to my body because it's informing my brain of what is really going on. And it's more accurate that in many instances, when I see patients, it's about like they've been misdiagnosed. And I'm like, this showed up 6 months ago, but you didn't trust it to be able to go in and know what it is. And so it's
Yeah.
kind of what I teach is empowerment of knowing. And it's through the fascia that you're able to address really deep issues.
That
Sorry.
is so awesome. I love this topic and I can't wait to dive more into it. It is time for the Power Mom Chronicles section, and I cannot wait to know what your answers are. And my first one to you is, what's a game-changing lesson life has taught you?
That it's okay to struggle, and that it's not something wrong with me, but that that's the state of what it is, and that that gives me permission to be human, to, to learn my lessons, and to grow with grace.
Love it. And my second question is, who and what inspires you?
My children, 100%. I've heard it said that if we allow them, that they are the next iteration of our karmic growth. We grow from our parents first, and our second set is being a parent, and then learning to let our children teach us the next places to refine who we are and grow into the people that we were made to be.
And offer a piece of wisdom for moms or anyone really striving to find their strength and voice.
Go inside. Go inside. Turn off the outside noise. Go to the quiet places inside of you and learn to feel deeply. Learn to translate what those feelings are into the truths of what you are, and then live them boldly and live them profoundly.
And my last question is the best advice you've ever received.
Um, I think that it's seek truth, go around doing good, look for ways to add beauty, and love others.
Perfect. Well, that was a great way to end this week's episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. Anna's links are all down below in the show notes. Don't be shy, go say hi. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you all in the next one.